Well, good morning, all. I would like to welcome everyone and call this meeting to order. Welcome to all members of council that are joining us both in person and virtually this morning. Welcome also to all of our staff that will provide us facts and information so we can make the best decisions in the interests of the Corporation of ACW and all of our full-time and seasonal residents. Also, welcome to all members of the public that are joining us this morning, our special guest, Louisa, and to the media that may be joining us. Meetings of council are live streamed on the Township's official website in accordance with the live streaming and virtual participation of meetings policy. Do any members of council have a pecuniary interest or general nature thereof to indicate at this time of any agenda item that we have today? Okay, thank you. We do have a set of minutes from the 25th of February. I would entertain a mover and a seconder for, and that would be Councillor Miltenberg and Councillor Hickey, that Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh Township Council hereby adopts the February 25th, 2025 council meeting minutes as written. Do we have any questions on these minutes? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thank you. Open forum is an opportunity for any members of the public to make any comments that they would care to regarding any agenda item that we have today. If there's any members of the public that would like to make any comments, please go to the microphone, indicate your first and last name and the agenda item. Please.
Hi, my name's Marilyn Snedden, and I'm here on behalf of the Port Albert Citizens Association. And I submitted a letter referencing some of our concerns about the new waste management plan, but I saw your update about providing bins for the pickup points. So I do have a couple things I'd like to ask about that. What will be the strategy for when those bins are overflowing? Because I do know that there will be cottagers who won't be there at their cottage for their normal setting out their garbage day, and they will use the pickup point bins. So I'm wondering what your strategy will be for managing overflowing bins, and also will the residents be consulted on where those bins are located? So I think my other letter is already on the record. Okay, great.
Thank you. Okay, and if any other members of the public that would like to make any comments, please? Seeing none, I thank you very much for that. We do this morning have a committee of adjustment meeting, so I will entertain a mover and a seconder that we adjourn and open our committee of adjustment. And that is Councillor Van, Stone and Forrester. That Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh Council hereby adjourns the regular council meeting and opens the committee of adjustment meeting to review minor variance application MV 2024-11 night. All in favor of this motion? And that is carried. Thank you. I would like to call the Committee of Adjustment meeting to order and indicate that meetings of council are live streamed on the Township's official website in accordance with the live streaming and virtual participation of meetings policy. Do any members have a pecuniary interest or general nature thereof to indicate at this time of the agenda item that we have? Seeing none, I thank you for that. This is to deal with minor variance application file ACW MV-2024-11 night. Council have been provided the application on this, and I would now like to invite Megan Tid-Hernick to present to the Committee of Adjustment on this.
Hey, good morning, Mayor and members of Council. Just one second while I get my presentation sorted here. Okay, so good morning. We have a minor variance application for the property located at 86429 Amberley Beach Road. Here we have an aerial image of the property. Please note that the parcel fabric is slightly shifted. We do have a legal survey of the property to make sure that it is being constructed on their actual property, but the impact data is just a little bit skewed. So just keep that in mind that we do know it is going to be on their property. It just sometimes doesn't appear that way from impact data. There's also a purple line on that map, and that is denoting the flood limit from Lake Huron. So here we have an oblique photo, and this was taken in 2020. And the subject property is kind of the green or teal house on the left in this photo. So the purpose of the application would grant variances from the ACW zoning bylaw to reconstruct the existing residential dwelling and also include a small addition. It will also increase the height of the roof and enlarge a deck structure closer to the front lot line. So the existing cottage is proposed to be torn down and reconstructed on the same foundation. There will be a small addition of about 40 square feet, and that is the one red box outlined here on the screen. This will effectively just fill in a corner of the existing house. It's not resulting in getting any closer to the neighbor. It's going closer to the west side. There is a small deck that is being proposed, and this is more for functionality. You can see the deck location, the other square box that I've got on here. We have a side door on the one side, and then we have new doors on the west side. So it is just allowing for people to walk around the building because of the elevation change. Here we have a diagram of the elevation drawing. So because they are changing the pitch of the roof, it is getting taller by about 5 feet. There will be no additional living space in this area. It is strictly just aesthetics and additional windows that you can see there, a little bit of storage. So we did have 2 members of the public contact me in circulation for this application. One was just looking for more information about what it was going to look like. So I provided them the 2 diagrams that I just showed you, the floor plan as well as the elevation diagram. They didn't have any further comments. They just kind of wanted to see what was happening. Another neighbor provided information pertaining to a legal right-of-way, and that's on Block A of the subject property, so it's to the north of the house. With the house being rebuilt in the exact location that it is already, the access or right-of-way is not being impeded. I understand that it is an access for the second row cottagers to access the beach area. So it is not being impacted, but wanted to note that there is that legal access on a portion of the property, but not all of it. Oops. ACW staff did review the proposal as well, and they have no concerns. Our building department has gone out and reviewed it. No concerns there. MVCA also reviewed the proposal. They have no concerns. They did note that a permit will be required. That's pretty standard. So the proposal can be seen as minor. An increase in 40 square feet is pretty minimal in the grand scheme of things. The height of the roof is being increased to acknowledge the roof line upgrades and changes. And then the encroachment of the deck to the front lot line is deemed to be minor, as it allows for that functionality to go walk around the house due to the grade change. So it is anticipated that the boathouse will not be part of this renovation. It is on public property. We'll say the Crown owns that portion. So this is not part of the application for reconstruction. They are not doing anything to the boathouse. So the development maintains the intent of the ACW official plan as well as the zoning bylaw. The property is proposed to continue to be used for lakeshore residential purposes as is permitted in our zoning bylaw. And based on MVCA review and feedback, the reconstruction of the building in the proposed location is supported. The development is in conformity with all other provisions of our zoning bylaw and does follow the direction of the official plan. So it is my recommendation that the application be approved on the basis that the proposal is considered minor to allow for these upgrades to the existing structure and do not have notable off-site impacts with regards to the natural hazards.
Okay, thank
Any
you very
questions?
much. Yeah, thank you very much, Megan. As this is a public meeting, I will open it up to the public if anyone would like to speak in opposition to this application. Is there anyone that would like to speak in favor of this application? Would the applicant care to make any comments? If not, I'll open it up to council if we have any questions or comments, and I'll go first to Councillor Miltenberg, please.
Thank you. I actually think your recommendation is fine. I just have a couple questions. One is that purple line, you said it was in the flood limit. Does that mean the 100-year erosion, or what is the flood limit? What does that phrase mean?
Megan, please.
Yes, so there are a few different hazards associated with Lake Huron. Some of our houses that are down below top of bank are subject to flooding, or what we call the wave uprush zone from Lake Huron when we get nasty storms. And then the 100-year erosion is more for at the top of the bluff. And as that bluff erodes over time, we have the 100-year erosion. So that's more on the top of the bluff. And then the flood hazard is down below top of bank.
Okay, thank you. And then just a really minor question. It's about the numbering. It starts with a 2024, so it says 11/20/24. So do they get numbered by when they come to your office as opposed to or when they're complete, or how do they? I'm just curious. How do you number them?
Okay, thanks for that. Megan, please.
That's fair. So it was submitted formally in 2024 at the very end of December. So it got a 2024 number. And then with the meeting that was canceled in February, it has now pushed to March. So it looks like it's an old file, but it's not. It was just kind of when it was submitted.
Okay, good. Thank you. Any other questions or comments from council? If not, clerk, please.
Just to note that the recommendation does include the conditions attached to it, so that is noted in the agenda.
Thank you. If there's nothing further, it has been recommended the approval of this, and so I will entertain a mover and a seconder for approval. Councillor Hickey, Deputy Mayor Vanstone, that Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh Committee of Adjustment approve minor variance application MV-2024-11 night on the basis that the changes being proposed are considered minor to allow for the upgrades to the existing structure and do not have notable off-site impacts with regards to the natural environment. And further that the approval be subject to the following conditions, and that being the proposed structure be constructed consistently with the site plan submitted with the application to the satisfaction of ACW's Chief Building Officer, and that the variance approval be valid for a period of 18 months from the date of the committee decision. All in favor of the motion is read. And that is carried. Thank you. Megan, what effect of public and agency comments would you suggest to us on this application, please?
There's no microphone coming through. Megan is muted.
Sorry about that. I will say that
repeat
again.
that again, please.
So 5A, public comments were received on the issues of maintaining legal right-of-way access. Comments were thoroughly addressed with the landowner, but the effect did not influence the decision of council to approve the application. And 3B, agency comments were received in support of the application, the effect of which resulted in a decision to approve the application.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So the recommended effect of agency and public comments is 5A and 3B, and I'll entertain a show of hands from council, Committee of Adjustment, if we're in support of this. And that is supported. Thank you very much for this, Megan. And I will now open it up for a motion to adjourn the Committee of Adjustment, please. Councillor Blake and Miltenberg, that Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh Township Council now close the Committee of Adjustment. All in favor of this motion? That is carried, and I will entertain now a motion to reconvene our regular council meeting. Councillor Forrester and Hickey, that the council reconvene our regular council meeting. All in favor of this motion? And that is carried. Thank you. Now I would like to welcome Mackenzie Deutschler to present to council on the Ben Miller Community Park Playground. Mackenzie, please, and you'll have up to 10 minutes to make any comments you'd care to.
Good morning, councillors. Thank you for taking the time to meet with me this morning. I'll be speaking to you today on behalf of the Ben Miller Community Hall Committee regarding the Ben Miller Playground project. Our goal today is to provide you with some key information on the project so that you can bring it to this year's budget meeting. Over the past year, our committee has been gathering input and ideas from community members about what they would like to see in a new playground. We've been visiting parks and playgrounds in ACW and surrounding areas, as well as review key details from the Parks and Recreation Strategic Plan and Parks Concept Plan. The wealth of this information has guided us in selecting a specific theme and types of playground equipment components for the proposed Ben Miller Playground project wish list. The desired theme and list of physical components was provided to you in the agenda. While I won't go over each individual item in the list, I'd like to share some additional insights into why we chose these particular components. We'd be thrilled to pay tribute to our community's farming heritage with a farm-themed playground. It would provide endless opportunities for children to explore and play in an imaginary farm world. We believe the theme would appeal to people of all ages. And during our visits with local businesses and families, we noticed when we bring up the idea of an accessible farm-themed playground, their enthusiasm and interest increased drastically. And as we all know, heightened interest typically leads to increased support. Personally, I'm much more inclined to get behind and back projects that resonate with me and my family's interests. There's something very special about being part of a farming community and how we come together to support one another on community projects. The combination of equipment on the wish list provides a variety of accessible play options and sensory experiences. There is a strong need for more accessible playgrounds in our community, and these combined components would offer children of all ages with varying physical, sensory, and cognitive abilities a place to play and engage. Now that we've shared the theme and types of equipment we're aiming for, we want to provide you with a better understanding of the estimated costs of them. Based on our committee's research, the total cost for an entire playground project like this, including a barrier fence and accessible pathway, would be upwards of $130,000, with approximately half of that amount being allocated to play equipment. Our committee is confident in our ability to raise the necessary funds for the playground equipment portion of this project. We officially began fundraising 3 months ago and have already raised over $18,000. With several exciting events planned for 2025, we're well on track to reach our goal. We have demonstrated through the successful renovation of the Ben Miller Community Hall that our committee works effectively with both our council and township to complete large-scale projects. And the results speak for themselves. We have a beautiful, accessible hall that's in high demand for rentals and serves as a very popular gathering place for the community. In recent years, the ball diamonds have been upgraded with benches and bleachers, and it's now a natural progression to complete the final phase of revitalizing the Ben Miller Community Hall and baseball diamond grounds by adding this type of an accessible playground. So in conclusion, we hope the information we shared today helps provide a clearer understanding of what both our committee and the broader Ben Miller community envision for the playground project. We respectfully ask that Council and the Township consider the insights discussed as part of this year's budget deliberations. We're thrilled with the progress made so far, and we deeply appreciate the support and guidance from Council and Township staff throughout this process. We genuinely believe that this theme and combination of equipment will create an appealing and unique space for ACW residents and others to enjoy for generations to come. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Mackenzie. And I'll open it up to council for any questions that anyone may have, and I'll go first to Councillor Miltenberg, please.
Thanks, Mackenzie. Great presentation, and I did speak with Mackenzie a couple weeks ago, I think. Clearly, I'm a big fan of playgrounds. If you've ever talked to me, I actually play on the playgrounds. No, I'm kidding. No, not really. I am not kidding. But I digress. St. Helens, who I work with, has a partial playground, and they've been fundraising for a long time. Dungannon started talking about a farm-themed playground probably like 7 or 8 years ago, but they've kind of gone in a different direction for the whole community. They're a little bit behind Ben Miller. They're working on the community space, and then I know that's also on their agenda. I'm on the Port Albert Rec Committee, and I know they're looking for help to build a pavilion for the 200th anniversary of something next year as well. So my question, and there is one in here, we have a lot of communities, and I support all the projects, but that's a massive amount of money that I'm aware of from those 4 communities alone. So have you thought of, and you may have, staggering, like some this year, some next year, because that's a fair few components, and generally playgrounds, the ones that I see that are fundraising, they build something and then they keep going. Have you looked at that at all?
Okay, thanks for the question. Mackenzie, please.
Yeah. We haven't talked about it formally with the committee. From a playground perspective, I don't know if you could build all those components separately. I guess it would depend on when the request for proposal went through the township, correct me if I'm wrong, and these companies came back with concepts, and it came back to you if it was able to be broken up to a more affordable option. Our goal was to be able to raise a significant amount to be able to cover the equipment cost and hopefully move forward with an entire project, if that answers your question.
Okay, yep, thank you. Any additional questions or comments for Mackenzie? Mackenzie, if I could just, for clarification, you have an estimate of 130,000 you suggested for the playground, and you feel that your group could raise half of that. Did I hear that right? 65K? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Good. Well, credit to you. You know, playgrounds, as Councillor Miltenberg commented on, are very important to society and for our youth. They're our future. And I really credit you for this. Thank you very much for presenting to us this morning.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Now I would like to move on to our waste management presentation and welcome Louisa Edstad to present to us today. Welcome, Louisa.
Thank you. I'm Louisa Atzett, and I come to you from Guelph-Hermosa Township in Wellington County. I've been here about 24 years, since the days of Carter Waste, when we started doing collection in your community. So grateful for that. I'm going to go through a number of slides, but after that, there might be a number of questions as well. One is already raised this morning. So without question, I think since even just COVID, we've had significant challenges with our labor force and service with some of the aging equipment and not being able to replace them as quickly as we'd like to. As a matter of fact, out of Mount Forest to office, we've probably had 90% turnover with the driver force. What happens is that we lose that institutional knowledge of, these roads and the nuances about collection. As well, we've had about 50% delivery of, equipment on time as well. So to combat some of these challenges and the obvious impacts we've had with service delivery, there's been a number of items that I've kind of listed here. And we continue to hire. We've got a job fair again this weekend and the 14th as well for consideration. So we're always ramping up about 10 additional drivers out of that site because we know we're going to lose some that don't want to do that laborious work. So on top of that, for compensation, one of the items I wanted to mention, not only just retention and bonuses, but also through the winter, we offer attendance bonuses. Our current G2D program is really taking anybody that doesn't have a license. If you've got a general, and then we'll pay and put you through school, and you just stay with us to do some collection. So there's some other items here, streamlining hiring process, but what is probably key to the future of collection and getting a labor force wanting to do this work is to automate collection. With that, it does open up the labor pool for those non-traditional workers, encouraging more females and people that might have not wanting to do some of that labor. On the job training, we now send everybody to Florida to do their safety training for a couple of weeks, and then we monitor them for 2 weeks. So we've got all the programs now in place, and it's just a matter of now converting anything that's manual to automated collection. So I am going to go through some of these items and probably raise one of them already through the delegate this morning. So the cart collection is going to be implemented for recycling. So through EPR and CMO, that's already been determined. Because it's going to be potentially the same vehicle that collects both, we'd like that to be also for waste collection as well, for continuation of service. The CMO cart will be a blue cart because that'll be dedicated towards recycling. And then for the waste, it'll be this, what we call a 64-gallon cart. Now, that 64-gallon cart will be distributed to each address when we get that finalized list of eligible sources for collection. But not every size and every cart will be able to be applied, especially in the Lakeshore area. We know that because of access, and there's already some staging locations that already appear. So the plan would be to work with Public Works and our operations team and go and put eyes on these sites to determine what the best location is for access, also signage, and for residents to understand whose staging area belongs to which address. So we're looking at front load bin spots for servicing those particular residents because the carts, you might just need too many of those in one staging area. It will allow then for the material to be kept inside a steel container, and our sizes range between a 2-yard to an 8-yard, and there is service flexibility. We are in the area with the commercial truck, more than once a week, but it really will be working with some of those associations. One already called a couple weeks ago to make sure that there is input in where and how often these bins get serviced, because we know that through some of the seasonal cottagers that might be at the properties, maybe not know the area, might misuse a potential bin. There is also an option to actually lock these bins and apply locks to each unit holder as well if things do go a bit awry.
Louisa, could I just ask a question? If any members of council have questions, would you like them as you go or at the end? Which would be your preference?
I think as I go, I think is great if there's questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Miltenberg, do you have a question or comment, please?
Yeah, I'm following, but I'm having trouble visualizing. And you're saying words like we have 2 yards and 8-yard ones. I don't know what that means. Is that
Yeah, so it's a front
size?
load bin. Yeah, it's a size of bin that you might see behind a restaurant that
What
has a
size
lid.
is that behind you? Sorry, is
That's
that
for
one
the
of those?
staging area. It's not for the individual residents. These are just carts for homeowners. But if there's a spacing and access, there'll be separate staging areas to account for some of the areas we can't go down.
Further?
Okay, yeah, please continue.
So is there just one size of that green thing behind you?
There are multiple sizes. So
And
the
the truck gets
64.
them all?
The 64-gallon is the standard, especially for a biweekly service. We just launched in Town of Godrich, so it fits about 3 bags. So one question might be if someone does need an extra cart, that'll be then through staff to us to allow for an additional cart for larger families, and that's just an additional unit cost, right? So there is allowances, I think, for some of the elderly as well if they're particular low waste and recycling user that the 32 gallons is slightly smaller. The majority of it will be this because to keep inventory and even track the carts at every resident. The cart also belongs to that property, which means, and I'll talk about it a little bit, the technology on the truck will allow us then to tag the RFID and also video, so we can go back to take a look at what was actually collected, and whether something was out or not.
Okay, thank you. Please continue. Yes?
You also were saying something about a CMO cart. Is that an acronym or what does
Sorry,
CMO mean?
for recycling, Circular Material Ontario.
Sorry, what is it?
Circular Material Ontario, I
Okay.
apologize,
So
is
it's
the
CMO,
lead
okay.
producer responsible organization responsible for EPR, which is Extended Producer Responsibility under the recycling legislation.
So that new legislation that came out, it has been staggered and we are now this year responsible for it. The CMO is under that legislation? Is that what?
CMO is the body that's responsible, so they take ownership effective the transition.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Councillor Hickey at this point, and then Councillor Snowden, please.
Just a comment. I want to thank you for acknowledging about the issues that we've been having in the township. You talked about driver shortage right off the bat, and that was going to be one of my questions about the service. Prior to the snowfall, we've had issues with trash pickup and trucks showing up, and I appreciate you talking about that off the start. Thank you.
Thank you. If I can add too, there has been, and we max out almost every collection. Maxing out means that, their trucks are full as well. So some significant volume increases, and it's just not in Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh. From COVID, we're seeing, a double-digit increase in volume, which impacts the ability to hold more volume in the truck. The trucks can only reach a certain capacity. So every time there's a significant boom in the amount of volume that's at the curb, it's a struggle then coming back to dump, especially if it's recycling, and then getting back on route. So with this new model, we're stabilizing that and have enough reduced expectations of operating hours to allow for, kind of a 10 to 20% volume boost through your seasonality.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Snowden, please.
Thank you. Going back to your Councillor Miltenberg's comments about definitions, I think I know what it is, but for the sake of clarity, could you define staging area?
I got that. So the request was to define staging area. It is just a spot where right now there's areas that material get deposited. So that would be the staging area or the location of the bins.
Please continue, Councillor Snowden.
So that's in relation then to the lakeshore area only.
Correct. Yeah.
And then further, Mr. Mayor?
Please.
You talked about going back to Councillor Miltenberg's misunderstanding or unclarified terms when you talked about the size of these bins, and you said it was what you would find behind a restaurant. I guess what I see behind a restaurant is a dumpster. Is that what you would call a dumpster?
Yes, another term. They're front load bins or dumpster. Correct. Thank you.
And the dumpster is what, the 4-yard or the 8-yard or whatever you call that?
The size will be based on volume and the residents attached to that. So we've already pre-identified between a 4-yard range and a 6-yard range. So it will depend on then capacity and putting eyes on it and through the summer as well to make sure we have the correct size to manage the capacity.
And then further to that, there would be a different truck that comes to dispose of the 4-yard or the 6-yard bins. Correct?
Correct. That is a different truck that collects these front load bins.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Forrester, please.
Okay, thanks, Glenn. So how does the garbage sticker work with those bins then?
So there wouldn't be a need for a garbage sticker. So the option is for council to look at putting it on the tax levy or applying a charge, a separate line charge. because you won't need it after that. We are able, through the smart truck technology that we've got, to at least identify, participation if that is needed into the future. But it does move from a bag tag idea to a universal across the municipality.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for that. And will you cover the cost of that further in your presentation, the cost of the bins?
It's already included in our pricing.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. CAO, please.
So other municipalities that have these carts, they charge X amount of dollars a year on your tax bill for those that are using the service. So for those bins, so I think Goderich is well up in just a little over 150. I can't remember, and I think Central Huron is 120. So that's just kind of giving you an idea so that's in lieu of the bag tags. So does that answer your question? Okay. Sorry to interrupt, Louise. I just thought
Thank you. Better answer.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Please continue.
Thank you. This next slide just goes through some of the benefits. I've talked to the labor item. The consistency of service is probably the most critical, but also it offers our ability now with a new truck with the technology. Probably one of the most important is the customer service aspect, which means for every single collection, our video is running through the operating day. Because the addresses are tagged into our system, we are able to do a look back in case there is a resident call or the municipality sends us an email, to find out why there was a service disruption. Oftentimes we'll go and maybe nothing was out, or there was something that prevented us from doing a collection, construction season, et cetera. So it does offer us the ability to put eyes on the collection, but also because it is integrated, if the municipality or residents wants to take a look at their own service as well, it is attached online that through our web browser as well, through a specific ID that resident can take a look at also their collection virtually, so as an option. So we think that through, the less manual labor and, consistency of service with the customer service ability to manage any of the service complaints mentioned, it'll be a significant improvement into the future. What's really important here is obviously outreach to the community in case there's some areas, right, the lakeshore we mentioned, but others. And typically it's a 2 to 3 month rollout, and there is quite a number of communication ideas used in the past. So direct mailer would be kind of top of mind so that everybody does have one mailed to their house. We also, when we distribute the carts, put a flyer in with the cart as well to make sure that the resident is putting the cart properly out to the curb as well. The wheels need to face the home so that we can go to dump. So usually the first time that these are applied, that's probably the more significant of issues, is that they're reversed, but the driver just goes out and does that. Well, because of that, we're going to be placing a sticker that's going to be embedded into the carts to show which way it's facing, just so that things can run a little bit more efficiently. Some of the other questions through some other open houses, and that is an option as well, to have a public open house on these to kind of review some of the information. Do you need to bag the material? So the answer is no. For recycling or for garbage, you're welcome to not bag it, but then you're dealing with anything that's sloppy in there, and that resident keeps that cart at their own property. So you are welcome to bag material on windy days. Like anything, if it isn't bagged and there's flying papers, there could be some potential litter, so to be mindful of that. And then we also recommend for some of the users as well that maybe don't produce as much material for set out, to put it out when it's full, so that we're only collecting kind of what's needed through that week, in similar practice as today. So the Facebook and the website as well, collateral pieces are available. So there's about a suite of 6, but we customize it to the municipality and also feedback on your community.
Perfect. Thank you. Question or comment, Councillor Miltenberg, please?
Yeah, you mentioned the wind, which I think is front and center in a lot of our minds. I've collected my blue boxes out of the neighbors' fields a few times. So what happens if that gets damaged?
So if it gets damaged, we just replace it. So whether the resident uses our self-user options, which will be now have that ability, they can come direct to us, or through the municipality, will come and replace that cart.
So it's not a cost to the homeowner?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Deputy Mayor, please, question or comment?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is probably Mark that'll answer this, but I have a couple neighbors that they take Saturday and their bag of garbage to the dump as an day out. And so everybody will be charged, I'm assuming. There won't be any way that, say, if you're not going to use one of these bins, you aren't part of this? Because I imagine it's a nightmare.
Okay, thank you for the question. Response, please.
I don't know the answer, but if I had to take a guess, for those that get a bin, we'll pay for it. For those that choose not to get a bin, will not be charged because they will go to landfill site and pay the applicable fees over the scale. So does that make sense? And Louisa got her hand up. So I don't know because I'm all new to the whole program as well. So I'm going to look to Louisa.
Louisa,
So,
please.
yeah, so our charge per year doesn't change, but there is an opt-out that other municipalities are doing. So they are getting then the resident to sign an opt-out form that they will self-manage the material and put it properly into a disposal site as opposed to illegally dump or going to, a school bin, et cetera. So that is the discretion of council to allow for opt-out as well.
Okay, a follow-up.
Okay,
please.
I thank you for that, but I guess I'm looking at the fact that then it would have to come back to the municipality so they don't put it on their taxes, right?
Staff, CAO, please.
Again, we haven't got into the program yet. We're just getting the presentation today, and I can assume, and I know I shouldn't use assume because you know what happens when you assume. I assume that if you opt out, and I'm going to let Louisa correct me if I'm wrong, if you opt out of the program, you will not get a bin. You will not be charged the annual rate on your tax bill. However, you still have access to take your refuse to the landfill site at a charge by going over the scale.
That is correct. So when we go through the individual addresses, there'll be a period allowable through the municipality for opt-out. And when we do have our company that does the delivery, that residents won't get the delivery. And so because it'll be attached to a property number as well, that will be provided as well to the municipality. Confirmation of delivery with the RFID code that's attached to that address to verify that these addresses have been delivered for charging purposes.
Okay, thank you for that.
Okay, so
Follow-up.
if they because we don't have any recycling at the dump anymore, so they could go into the recycling and then just opt out of the garbage. Is that right? Thank you very much.
Okay, so everyone's in, and there's an opt-out clause.
That is the discretion of the municipality, correct?
Okay, thank you.
So for the benefit of Councillor Snowblin, who's online, she didn't hear that answer. So the answer was, or the question, I guess, was for those that opt out, they won't get a bin for garbage. They won't pay for that bin of garbage. However, they will still receive a bin for recycling at no cost because that is borne by the producer that produced the garbage. I'm sorry, this is Louise's presentation.
You're doing a great job. So it is borne by the producers through their PRO, which is a producer responsible organization, which is the circular materials CMO that I referenced.
Okay, Councillor Snowblin, please.
Thank you. So I guess in the present way, it's a user pay. So if you have a bag of garbage that needs to be picked up, you pay for a bag tag and off it goes. If you don't have any garbage, you don't buy a bag tag and everybody's happy. With the proposed system, you'll get a bin and you'll be charged on your taxes a certain amount, which is unavailable at this point. Has anyone done some kind of cost comparison with the average of, say, whatever the average amount of bags a family would put out times whatever that bag tag would cost times 52 weeks per year, what the average cost for a family of, say, 4 would be just using bag tags, as opposed to what the proposed cost would be with this new structure, being that the cost is just put onto your taxes? Is it neutral? Is it more, or is it less? Or has anyone done any kind of investigation on that?
Thanks for the question. Louisa, please.
Mark, maybe you can help do the math with the bag tag, but with this program and the house count, it's about $40 per year.
Okay, Councillor Miltenberg.
Well, the numbers that were put out earlier was basically about $120 a year, which is $10 a month, which is 5 bag tags, which is 5 bags of garbage a month per family. If the numbers were 120, somebody did 150. I forget if it was Blue Water, Central Huron, but Florence has got her finger up.
Okay, thank you very much. Staff?
So just for clarity, for my family,
I gave the wrong number, so you are correct. It is 142. I'm just looking at the other sheet per year.
so for my family of 4, with if with biweekly pickup at 2 bags of pickup, it's $130 in bag tags.
Okay. Okay, Councillor Hickey, please.
Just a comment
May I have a
about
follow-up
something you
question,
said
Mr.
earlier.
Mayor? I had my hand up with a follow-up question, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, I'll go to you, Councillor Snowblunt, and then Councillor Hickey, please.
Thank you. As a follow-up question to Florence's answer of $130, I'm not sure that I recall anyone saying what the proposed, what's the proposed cost that you're suggesting? Or has that been determined?
That is yet to be determined.
Okay, a follow-up, Councillor Snowblunt, please.
So just so I'm clear, because sometimes I'm not, there's no cost comparison then as of yet, correct?
I'll defer to someone else. CAO, please.
This number will be determined once we get the contract in place and move forward and determine what is an appropriate rate, and we'll work with Waste Management, and that report will come back eventually to staff or back to council. So.
Okay, thank you. Follow-up, Councillor Snowblunt, please.
Well, I'm having difficulty trying to wrap my head around this when I don't have the actual costs in front of me. I know this is the first presentation. I know that there is a tight timeline on when staff and Waste Management would like to roll this out. I'm wondering if we're going to get all of the costing information to us in good enough time to make a smart decision on this prior to when they need to roll it out.
Okay, thanks for the question. CAO, please.
So for today's purposes, we're here to look at the contract to consider that, and we'll bring it forward to the next meeting and hopefully get adopted before the deadline of April 30th when the contract expires. Those other details are what the charges will be on the tax rate, on the tax bill. We can sort those details out. They'll probably be anywhere between 100 and 150. I don't know. Don't quote me on that, but it'd be somewhere around there. But we haven't did the investigation yet. But for today's purposes, we're focusing on the contract, and between staff and Waste Management, we'll sort out what that amount yearly will be on your tax bill at that time. Keeping in mind, this doesn't happen for some time, because I think in Louise's report, it does reference that it may not take place for garbage pickup using these wheelie bins until June of 2026.
Okay, a follow-up, Councillor Snowblunt. Thank you for that, CAO.
No, that's fair enough. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hickey, and then Forrester, please.
Thank you. Just a clarification on what you said before. Every homeowner that wants a bin would get a bin at no charge. Is that right?
Every property gets a bin unless otherwise they want to opt out is typically what most councils have looked at.
Okay. And then if the bin gets cracked or damaged, it's replaced?
Correct.
At whose cost?
At no cost.
Okay. In your key terms and considerations from earlier, or in your report, it says cart replacement fee of $100.
So that is
who's that for?
That is for if the homeowner had damaged it. Usually we're getting 0.1% that they'll say that they did something to it. So that's the cart cost. And then that for new developments as well, for any new unit, it's $100.
Okay, but that fee would not go on to the property owner then?
Correct.
Sorry, is what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Forrester, please.
Okay, thanks, Glenn. So what about critters? Like, do they cause problems with them things?
Up north a little bit more with some of the bears and whatnot, but it
raccoon.
does contain the material better than it does today, which if it's on the ground. So there hasn't been any, on significant windy days, like with your blue box or bag, yes, there's some ditching. But typically, these are always upright, and we haven't seen, the critters coming in. There's always seasonal, I live on a farm, seasonality to that. So it's just, trying not to put the food waste when they are out roaming, and the certain times of year is probably usually the best practice.
But like a raccoon, they can climb anything, but you don't have troubles with them. Okay, thank you.
Typically.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor, please.
Just for everybody's thought, so if we go with this and say we have 100 people opt out, that's going to affect the cost, will it, or no?
It will eventually affect what the per unit cost, because it is the cost of the whole, because it's really the cost for us to just come and service. It's incremental whether we stop at one versus the other, right? So it just changes slightly what the cost per unit ends up being.
Okay, thanks. Additional questions, comments? I really like your open house concept. I think that would be very welcomed to those that have questions and to ask about that. Currently, and correct me if I'm wrong, west of 21 for 4 months, we have weekly pickup. What would be the cost what would be the cost if that was extended by either 1 month or 2 months west of 21?
Thank you. We would propose that through staff. And what I can tell you is that there is that availability. We would just have to take a look at that routing, because seasonality in our business just means you just need more resources over a certain time. We do like consistency. But you're asking for just 1 month ahead, 1 month behind, which is not the busiest time of year unless you're doing yard waste. So we would absolutely entertain that to extend it either a month earlier or a month later. The only challenge on that would be for recycling, because we'd have to go through the new operating group that's in charge of that. So at the minimum, there would be that waste option available to the municipality.
And do you have a cost on a monthly basis for that?
Yeah, it's already an estimated cost that's built into our contract, so it's just extending that, and we'll refine that in the details through staff.
Okay, do you have that cost today that you could present? No. Okay, thanks. Just wondered about that. Thank you. Anything additional? CAO, please.
Just because it's on my mind, no one's asked the question, but since it just came to my mind, better ask it now. Louisa, the garbage carts may not come until June of 2026. And I understand early this year that recycling is now the responsibility of producer, and waste management is our contractor that's looking after our recycling for us. Are these wheelie bins for recycling happening at our contract that happens in April, or is it going to coincide with the June 2026?
It'll coincide the deliveries together in 2026. It will be a brand new vehicle, so we are waiting for that vehicle to come. If that vehicle does arrive early, that would be then a presentation to say, we were lucky enough to get it early. We'd like to look at the transition before June. And then obviously if there's a delay, that same communication.
Okay, good. Thank you. I thought I'd better ask that question. And if it was that question at this table, they know. Thank you.
Perfect. Any other thoughts, comments, or questions? If not, thank you very much, Louisa, for your presentation to us this morning.
Thank you.
Appreciate it in answering all of our questions.
Mark, can I leave this here, especially if we're going to have an open house?
You can leave it here, and I can.
Okay, thank you very much for that. We will move on our agenda to the Treasury Department, and that is the final revenue/expenditure reports for 2024. It is being provided to us for information purposes. Do we have any questions or comments on this? Councillor Miltenberg, please.
So this will be the numbers that are in our budget when you give us our 3 years. These are the final numbers that will be in our budget binder. Is that what we're saying?
Okay, thank you very much for the question. Treasurer, please.
Yes, that's correct. As far as I know, there's no adjustments yet, but if there are, I will make notes in the budget.
Thank you.
Nothing additional to ask? Not? Thank you very much for that. We do not have anything under planning or building today. We do have under the administration department the hiring of our summer students. And it is always great to employ the youth, and very often we will see when they come here as summer students, they will want to return. And that is absolutely advantageous. Any questions or comments on that? And if not, I would entertain a show of hands, and we will consider the adoption of the summer students' hires in Section 18 as a bylaw. Do we have Councillor Snowden still?
There she is.
Yep, thank you very much. And on to the Ben Miller baseball program. Again, this is really, really good news. And thank you very much to all of the individuals that have stepped forward to be part of the committee. And I see Mac here. Thank you very much, Mac, for that, and all others. We put out the second request for volunteers, and the community answered this. So thank you very much for that, for the benefit of our youth. Any questions or comments? And if not, nothing under water. We do have under drainage department a drainage loan rating bylaw that we will consider in Section 18 as a bylaw, and I will entertain a show of hands to entertain this in Section 18. And that is supported. Under Public Works, the report from Thomas McCarthy is for information purposes. And Tom, on behalf of this council and all of the residents of ACW, I hear it consistently. Thank you very much for what you did under really, really tough circumstances with all of your staff in doing the best to your ability, and it always know it's appreciated. Questions or comments for Tom and his report? If not, I thank you. Jennifer, Councillor Miltenberg, please.
Well, I don't need to echo it. I tell Tom all the time what a great job they're doing. I just wanted to say I was surprised he got anything else done on this report. I'm like, whoa, I thought it was just going to be cleared snow. Report done. So good job.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Committee reports. Does anyone have any committee reports that they would like to share with council at this time? If not, I did attend the Maitland Valley Conservation Authority annual meeting last week. It had been postponed from a week earlier because of the weather, and it was at Blyth. And I would like to congratulate Councillor Hickey on being elected as the second vice president of MCVA. And there were many mayors there from throughout Huron County, and because Maitland Valley affects a lot of us, and it especially affects ACW with our frontage of Lakeshore and erosion being a concern. So it was quite a good meeting. Nothing under correspondence for direction. We do have 3 items as far as for information. Unfinished business is the OGRA conference and AMO, and those attending. We'll move into our bylaws at this time. Okay to go around with everyone for this? So I'll go first to the tile drain loan rating bylaw, moved by Deputy Mayor Vanstone, second by Councillor Snowden. That leave be given to introduce bylaw number 14-2025, being a bylaw imposing special annual drainage rates upon land in respect of which money is borrowed under the Tile Drainage Act, and that it now be read severally, a first, second, and third time, and finally passed this 4th day of March 2024. All in favor of the motion is read. And that is carried. And secondly will be the appointment of summer students, and it would be moved by Councillor Hickey, seconded by Councillor Miltenberg, that leave be given to introduce bylaw number 15-2025, being a bylaw to appoint the positions of summer students for the Township of Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh, and that it now be read severally, a first, second, and third time, and finally passed this 4th day of March 2025. All in favor of this motion. And that is carried. We do have a closed session today, and it would be moved by Councillor Forrester, seconded by Councillor Blake, that Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh Council move into a closed session in accordance with Section 239 in brackets 2 and brackets C of the Municipal Act, with the CAO, the clerk, Public Works Superintendent, and CBO remaining in attendance at 10 a.m. for the purpose of discussing proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land. All in favor of this motion? And that is carried. I thank you. We will take a 5-minute break now. We'll come back, actually a 4-minute break. We'll come back at 10:05, and our clerk will secure the meeting. Thank you very much to all members of the public for your attendance.
All right, we're back in.
Okay, we're in our public open session again. Clerk, reporting out of our closed session, please.
There is nothing to report.
Thank you. Our confirmatory bylaws moved by Councillor Forrester, seconded by Councillor Blake. The leave be given to introduce bylaw number 16-2025, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Township of Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh Council meeting held on the 4th day of March 2025, and then now be read severally a first, second, and third time, and finally pass this 4th day of March 2025. All in favor of the motion is read. And that is carried. And a motion to adjourn is moved by Councillor Miltenberg, seconded by Councillor Snowblin, that Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh Township Council does now adjourn to meet again on the 14th of March, 2025 at 9 a.m. or at the call of the mayor. All in favor of the motion. And that is carried. Thank you very much to everyone for thoughtful comments at our meeting today. Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Have a great day.
Goodbye, Anita.
Bye, Anita.
Enjoy the rest
Thank
of your
you.
day.